Is your mojo low? You don't feel inspired to create? Stay around. I'm going to show you how I fix that. Hello there, this is Bibi Cameron, and if your creative juices are running low, the first thing I'm going to advise you is to grab one of these creativity boosters sets. It includes stamps, coordinating dies and stencils, all that you need to start creating, and this one here is called Radiant Blossoms, but Alten you have several like this. I start by cutting an A4 sheet of cardstock in half, and then I cut the other half in two to get panels or to stamp my images, and in that way I save cardstock. Next, I stamp the images on Nina 110 grams cardstock using the Stampwheel and also Obsidian Ink by Alten. The next thing I do is to align the stencils with the images, and I start applying colors. Here the sky's the limit. You can use any color you might like, and as I said many times before, just start by a lighter shade of color and then increase the color as you move through the layers of the stencils. And it's important to work in that way with the ink colors, because if we use a dark ink color first, then if we apply a lighter color on top, we are not going to be able to see it unless it's white or gold or colors that are very opaque. This set includes a pack of 5 layering stencils, and this is to add color to the flowers, the leaves, and also the basket. And just in case you are interested in the ink colors I'm using for each specific area of the image, all this is listed in the blog. Here I just wanted to pass by and share with you also my struggles. Sometimes I just sit in my craft room and I try to create something that I have in my mind. I dream about it, and in my dreams was perfect. But when I come to my craft room to make it real, it doesn't happen. And like that, I spend a lot of time behind the scenes. I try to make something special for you. But I have to acknowledge that sometimes the things doesn't go as you expect, and there are many things going on behind the scenes. And I know this is the same for you. Let me show you the die set that also cut the sentiments in the stamp set, and I'm going to die cut this. So things could be hard or could be busy or could be lonely behind the scenes, and sometimes we just get stuck into a situation that doesn't allow us to create. I have been there. And even though crafting is therapy for many of us, it's a joy, we might struggle with that as well. And it's really a cycle, and we need to break it. And sometimes the key is to not overthink and just keep it very simple. I know, and I'm not ignoring the need to create fan folds and different design ideas, but starting for the very simple is very important when you are struggling with your mojo. Let's start just for the very, very easy things to do. So after you stamp and add color to your images, you might start seeing all the creative possibilities you have with those images. It also helps to create things in different colors. So I'm going to use here pink, purplish colors for this other image. And you will also notice that when you create for second time with the same set, it will be easier and faster. And then after that second experience, you will start thinking in other possible ink color combinations. You already know the image, and you already know how the layering stencils work. It's a very short learning curve. So once you are in this stage, when you are just, I want to do it in pink and red, in all the colors you can imagine, then we start thinking about compositions. What I can do with these images. Can I create a tag, a box, a frame, a scrapbook page? Can I combine this with other die cuts or other images? In this case, I decided to use these die cut leaves made with some of the dies from Prairie Roses layering die set, that is this one here. And what is special about these die cuts is that they create gorgeous debossed lines on the paper, and when you apply darker inks over the die cuts, it will kind of rescue the debossed lines, and it will look very beautiful. So let me show you here other samples I made using these die cut leaves. And this one here were made using Magnificent Magnolias. And there is an Instagram reel with these projects that is linked to the Alteneu Instagram page and also mine, because it's a video in which we are collaborating. So the idea here is to use these little die cuts to add dimension and interest. So my brush is not fully loaded with ink, and I'm going to just pass this over the die cut to rescue those lines. Then I'm going to apply more ink, and I'm going to apply a very heavy coat of that ink at the center or the stems of those leaves. And that's all. That's how I do this. And without the need to think too hard, I also like to use the same ink colors or cardstock colors that I use for my stamped images. Alteneu also offer cardstock and inks in the same color, so you can also benefit from that color coordination that always make the things a lot easier, and it also allows you to create a more harmonic composition. You can totally skip the ink blending, but that's something I like to do to add more character to the die cuts, and there is a very small difference there, but I think that is added value. Now let's think about the backgrounds. So sometimes the best background is just a blank background. And for this background, I'm using Nina 110 pounds cardstock. And I'm just sticking this basket in the lower portion of the panel, just like that. I'm not going to be sticking anything underneath or around the basket, so I fully glue it on the panel. And for the flowers, I'm going to use Alteneu Instant Dimension Foam Tape. I try to add the tape at the center of the image, so I will have plenty room to add or slide the die cut leaves around this. And for the leaves, I'm going to use dimensional foam pads behind each little leaf, and I'm going to add glue at the base of the stem. So this will keep the die cuts in place. I just want you to imagine that you are making a floral arrangement, I mean a real one, for your house, and you need to move things around and make it work. You might need to cut some branches and reorganize things up. So I want you to imagine that you are doing that here. The sky's the limit, you are the boss, and you can do anything you want here. So with two elements like stamped images and these little die cut leaves, we already give more body to that image as well, and in very simple steps. Now we have to add a sentiment, we can add some splatters or some blink, and we need to stick this to a card base. And I have some die cut and stamped sentiments, and I start playing around to see what looks the best. And I decided to use a banner because it doesn't cover much of the image. We did some work there, we don't want to cover it, so that's what I'm going to be using this. And to make that banner more substantial, I just add another piece of cardstock behind it, so this is going to be more sturdy. And when I'm gluing this down, I never use my fingertips to rub this up. I use a piece of cardstock, so I avoid smearing the ink, you know, just a thing that I do. And then I use my mini trimmer to trim down the banner. Once this is done, I can just stick it there using glue, but I'm going to add a little bit of dimension. And for that, I'm going to use Instant Dimension Foam Tape by Alteneu. These tapes comes in different widths and also thickness. This is the slimmer one, and also this is not so thick, so it just adds the right dimension. I just remove the backing of the tape, and I'm just placing this over the image, but I'm not pressing it down. So with the ruler, I just try to make sure that this is straight, and then I press down, and that's it. I can say that this panel is finished. It has very little dimension. It's going to fit perfectly in an A2 envelope, but I'm going to do something else here, and it's just to add some sequins. So I'm loving this stellar sequins by Alteneu, especially the tiny ones, so gorgeous. Any color we do here, but I wanted to kind of add some color coordination between the sequins and the flowers. So I use peony gold, and to help me to glue them in place, I'm going to use my perfect picker. And if you see there, I'm not using the wax bead, I'm using the other side of the perfect picker. And what I do is to dab that side in a little bit of glue so it becomes sticky, and in that way I can just move the tiny sequence a lot easier. So there you go, this is the front panel for that card. All I have to do is to stick this on a card base and I will be done. Now for the other card, I wanted to do something different, also to give you extra ideas. So I'm going to be embossing this piece of cardstock using Blooming Doily Charm 3D embossing folder that is absolutely gorgeous. And to add interest, you can apply opaque inks over the raised area of the embossed image. So I started by applying white ink. Then I'm going to apply moss ink around the edges of this piece of cardstock. I allow the ink to dry, or I use a heat tool to dry this up, to finally add gold ink around the edges as well. So this is a potpourri of inks. You can do other things with the embossed image, and this is also to rescue all those gorgeous embossed details. And to stick the images over embossed panels, I will advise you to use Altenew Instant Dimension Foam Tape. And this one is also not so thick, so it gives you just a beautiful dimension without being so overwhelming. And again, I'm going to be adding tape only at the center of the image, and you can stick this in the center of the panel or towards a side as I'm doing here. Then I'm going to stick the flowers also using this dimensional foam tape, and using my mini trimmer I'm going to trim any excess of paper, and then in the same way that I stick the leaves for the previous card, I'm going to do the same for this one. Then I check my options for a sentiment, and I'm going to add a banner as well, and I'm going to add a sparkling gold sequence. So I add glue, and then I dab the metal end of the perfect picker on that glue. I allow it to dry a little bit, and then I easily lift the sequence from the table to place them on my card panel. While everything dries, I like to use the Spellbinder's trimmer to cut the card bases. This gives me a perfect cut across the paper, and then it also gives me a really crisp scoring line right in the center of the paper. So when I fold the card base, I don't have excess paper at the ends. It's a really nice card base. And then using the Altenew bond folder, all I have to do is to press down or burnish over the scoring line, and that's it. I always make my own card bases, and recently I have been stamping them at the back with this gorgeous stamp set that Altenew sent me. I'm very grateful with Altenew. They send me the most gorgeous stamps. They are very generous. And talking about generosity, I want you to be super generous here with the glue. And pay attention, I'm not adding glue right at the edges of this. I'm adding glue near the edges, but not completely over the edges. I'm screwing the cap of the bottle, waiting about 30 seconds, and then I place this carefully over the card base. And to avoid glue smearing, we are not going to press this down quite yet. So I'm just placing it over carefully, just gentle, and I'm going to wait a little bit. So the glue is drying there, the papers are bonding, but I don't want to squeeze this down because the glue is going to smear towards the edges, and that looks so ugly, especially when we adhere embossed panels to card bases that are flat. We need to kind of have a little bit of technique to do that, and what we are going to do simply is when the glue is a little bit dry, then we just press down. Just in that moment we press down and make sure that everything is flat. The best way to adhere embossed panels on card bases is to adhere it over the card base without any topper or any embellishment over. That will be fantastic if you know what you are going to be making. But in my case, I never know. So that's why I do it this way. Now, to stick the other panel, I add glue on the card base because this topper is going to completely cover that card base. And I make sure that it's fully aligned, and then I press down really hard, everything in place. So that's the other card, super simple and quick. Now let me show you another card I also made using the same embossing folder, and Prairie Roses layering dies. I show the process to make this card in a 90 seconds reel on Instagram and also a 90 seconds short in my YouTube channel. To find it, Google Prairie Roses plus Bibi Cameron and you will find the blog post with pictures, instructions, and supply list. And what is important here is the opportunity to boost your creativity by looking at this. Look at those two backgrounds, completely different. We have the same exact die cut leaves, the same embossed background, and different florals. So we use Prairie Roses for this card here. And for these two cards today, I use Radiant Blossoms. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to subscribe or visit the blog for more ideas and inspiration. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting. Bye!
Wait, we have more where that came from. If you're after fabulous card making tutorials, you are definitely in the right spot. Our amazing design team create and upload fabulous video tutorials right to this YouTube channel. If you don't want to miss another amazing crafting tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and click that fun red button that you can see. Let's become paper crafting experts together.